Right, so welcome, Sally. Nice to see you again in the Zoom room. So you were just you were sharing something, so maybe you just want to share that, and then I'll speak to that.
Well, I was just saying that I'd woken up in the night with guidance not to eat eggs, and I was like questioning if that could be the Holy Spirit or not. And you were saying all form is magic, and you were going to talk about it.
Yeah. So anything to do with a level of form, with changing diet, ultimately is magic, because it's all part of the illusion. And the Holy Spirit's trying to help you transcend that. However, it can be helpful temporarily. Yeshua talks about in the course that if someone is not quite ready just to accept the single answer of spirit, that it can be helpful for them to have these so-called magical means. These magical means can help them to heal and sort of take the next step. So it doesn't mean that one excludes all of that straight away. So is the question is it helping you on your journey of awakening or not, or is it just another attachment to this world? So that's always the consideration. And using magic to reinforce the ego's belief system, then it's not helpful. But if you're using it temporarily to help you out of the ego's thought system, it's actually going to help you clear your mind, free your mind from the ego temporarily, bring you into a state. I think he talks about a state where you may be more amenable, you're more able to hear the Holy Spirit. Then that the use of magic as a temporary expedient is okay. I can actually bring it up quickly if you like. Let's just see. So if I recall, it's in text, early in the text, chapter 2, section 4. So we can find the passage, chapter 2, section 4, called Healing is Released from Fear. So yeah, there we go. So I'll share my screen with you. You can have a little read of this. Share screen. So paragraph 4, if you read from the top there.
All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the at-one-ment. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help with the non-right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They are already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. Well, that's interesting. I've not read that before.
Oh, yeah, so he covers these kinds of topics in the course, and he's saying, well, it's not the ideal. Ideally, you do it with your mind, but if someone is very fearful and bringing about a miracle is something that actually, would increase their fear, then that's not helpful. So using something for corrective purposes is okay, provided you understand, what its function is, and that the if you're the healer, that you don't ultimately believe in it. It's just magic. Magic can seem to work on this level. There's things that do help the body, no doubt, but that's not the ultimate answer, because what he's trying to do is heal the mind completely from all idea of sickness, from the belief that it is a body entirely. So prescribing something like that to someone you're trying to help, with the knowledge that, okay, this is a temporary expedient, I'm trying to help them ultimately to become more miracle minded, and this is a corrective part of that process. And often with people who's sick, they're not ready for the miracle yet. They're not there, so they're very fearful. And if you can give them something like take celery juice, or we mentioned that, or don't eat eggs, and their mind gives that belief, that can help them to heal. And then maybe, as a second step, you could explain to them that really it was their mind that was doing the healing. It wasn't the celery juice that was doing the healing. It was actually their belief in it that was doing the healing. And maybe when they're a bit better, they might be more open to that. And so healing, physical healing, can be a pathway into the healing of the mind. And that's often actually how it happens for people. It starts with some physical condition, and then they often don't treat it entirely with the mind because they're not there. So they have some kind of compromised approach to mind and body. Let's say they have cancer. They might go on a spiritual journey. They might be looking at their past and letting go, forgiving stuff. They might do some regression therapy or hypnotherapy, but then they might also look at as a holistic approach at their diet, their lifestyle, all these kinds of things, and have a holistic approach to the whole thing, which may well help them to get over their fear. And at the end of it, if they do heal from the cancer, they're in more of a position to accept that it was really their belief that healed them, that the agents actually weren't ultimately required. So he addresses this, and I guess you just have to just be aware of it in your own case and in anyone else's case, and ask for guidance as to when is appropriate to use it and when's not. If you get guidance that eggs are not helpful and that feels right for you, then go with it. What if okay, so I don't eat eggs for a while, see what happens.
I can see why actually now. I probably wasn't willing to let go of the attachment to them. I've got this story that I'm going to let go any minute about the birds and how they're kept, and so I'm relating some anger there with the eggs. So eating anger, and I'm eating eggs. I've been doing that subconsciously, I think. So I can see why it makes sense.
So then, that's why it comes up as guidance for you. That doesn't mean it's necessarily guidance for everyone. It's meant for you. I think one of the great dangers is you can generalize the guidance. So I'll give you a classic example of that. There's a crowd called the Circle of Atonement, and they did a whole webinar on the issue of vaccinations. And so Yeshe had given some guidance to Bill Thetford early in the scribing of the course, probably around this time. It was like week 3 into it. They were probably on chapter 1 or chapter 2 or something. And he gave some guidance because Bill was quite fearful, and about a flu pandemic. It was sort of October, November time. People were getting sick. There was apparently a flu pandemic coming. Nothing much has changed in all those years. And this was in 1965. And so Yeshe gives him guidance that he will send an expert who was the chairman of the flu board, who Helen happened to know. And he gave him some specific guidance in a conversation that he had, which was to take the vaccination. And Yeshua said, well, I'll send you an expert to deal with this. Now, this would be an example of he's dealing with someone who's in a fear-weakened state, who's not really open to the full miracle. It's very early in the process. So he gives him that to reassure him, look, I can help you with even these kinds of issues. There's nothing I can't handle. So that's guidance specific for Bill in that situation. That doesn't mean that Yeshua was saying vaccinations are a good idea for the general population. But they took it as, and that for that reason, they excluded it out of the course. That was personal guidance. There was a lot of that, especially in the first 5 chapters, that they cut out, because he was giving particular personal guidance to Helen and Bill and was meant for them in their life situation. So they edited it out, quite rightly. Well, they went into the notes and they found this and they said, oh, well, this is very significant. And then clearly Yeshua is saying that obviously, vaccinations are a good idea. Both of them had been vaccinated. So really what they were trying to do was to reinforce their own opinion and seek justification for it in the course. So that's an example of how not to do it, because they're clearly just manipulating the course's message. They're finding something that's not even in there. I couldn't even find it in the urtext. It's in the notes to the urtext. Now, where they got those, I don't know, because it's not even in the urtext. And then they generalized that guidance that was specific to Bill in that situation. You can understand why Yeshua might have given that, because he's saying, okay, it's early in the process. You have a lot of fear around this issue. I want to get your trust. I know that there's a whole journey ahead of you. So yes, I will help you in the specific instance to show you that you can trust me, and that this is I can give you guidance in these practical matters. And so it was all about him building the trust, so that they would go on this journey which they just started, and it wasn't meant for general consumption. That Yeshua thinks vaccinations are a good idea, which is how they then misinterpret it. If you look at I think it's lesson 76. So the extraordinary thing is in that whole webinar, they didn't mention this passage once, and he actually mentions it specifically. He talks about vaccination specifically. He says, you really think a small round pellet or some fluid pushed into your veins through a sharpened needle will ward off disease and death? You really think you're alone unless another body is with you? It is insanity that thinks these things. You call them laws and put them under different names in a long catalogue of rituals that have no use and serve no purpose. Think you must obey the laws of medicine, economics, and of health, protect the body, and you'll be safe. So very clearly here, he's given you a specific instance, vaccinations, where this actually is not helping you. This is belief in the insane laws of the ego. And but in that whole webinar, they didn't mention this passage once, which is extraordinary. So that's it's just an example of how not to use the course. Don't use it to justify your own opinion and seek for justification when actually usually there's a very clear guidance on it. It's a fairly comprehensive course. It's 1,300 pages. There's actually guidance on most issues in the course. So there's a line on guidance on vaccination. No, it's actually really not. It's just a belief, and you really think this is true, but it's actually not. It's just insanity.
Human nature, isn't it? If you want to prove your point, you'll find the evidence to prove your own thinking.
Exactly. And they even said, oh well, you can use the course to prove whatever you want to prove. Well, to a point. They had to look outside of the edited version into the notes to prove their point, and they ignored what's actually been included in the course, specific guidance on their issue. Well, that's just not being honest, is it? Because he's given you specific guidance. If you're going to follow the course, then listen to the specific guidance. Don't make up your own guidance and then say, oh well, then the Holy Spirit clearly wants us to have vaccinations and clearly wants us to wear masks. And I remember the lady saying then, oh, you could just see Yeshua there saying, oh yeah, it's okay to wear your mask. Okay, well, maybe that's just your own projection onto him. It has nothing to do with the truth. Lesson, I think it's 153 actually. one of these. He talks about again, protective clothing. He mentions these things, but specifically, he says, well, actually, protective clothing is not it's another false belief, another false idol that you believe in. There we go. Workbook lesson 50. Protective clothing, pills, money. There he mentions protective clothing. Well, that would cover things like masks, wouldn't it? And all of these things are an endless list of forms of nothingness that you endow with magical powers. So there again, he's addressed that, and yet she doesn't want to see it because her own fear is preventing her from really looking and saying, well, actually, maybe I just need to take this very clear, specific guidance on the issue. It's there in the course. I don't need to, I really don't need to fear. Taking these preventive measures is just increasing my fear, and it's making this all real in my mind. And there's actually no evidence on the practical level that they work anyway. There's not one shred of evidence that they work. So it's purely belief. I believe vaccinations work, or I believe a mask works, but there's no substantive evidence that they do.
But like you say, when somebody's in fear, they're so far away from love that they will do anything to make themselves feel better. So if a mask or a vaccination in that case gets them out of the fear state, then so be it. But it's just not.
Well, if that's what they need, but don't say that that's the ultimate truth, and that's that it's part of the Holy Spirit's guidance. It's not. And Yeshua's guidance here is very specific around. It's not about preventive measures. He's talking about if you're actually ill. He's not saying, oh, well, we'll start taking vaccinations in case you get ill. He's saying if you're actually ill and you're in this fear-weakened state, then maybe treating the illness with some magic could be an approach. But again, then they took it and they misinterpreted it and said, oh, well, this passage is now justifying that he's saying take vaccinations. But you need to be aware of the subtlety. He's talking about an existing illness, not about preventing illness. So you can interpret this, as we've seen, you can interpret it in many ways, but generally, if you just read the course, he's actually very clear and very specific. It's not leaving things, stating things in an ambiguous way. It's actually pretty clear guidance, as we've just seen with vaccinations, and then he's talking about protective clothing and pills and money and all these endless forms of nothingness. Well, he couldn't really be clearer. He's telling you exactly what they are, and he's telling you these things are ultimately going to help you to return your mind to God. So, any other thoughts on that, or shall we go into?
I didn't have a positive view of vaccines anyway, so it didn't bother me not having them, but I could see others that were really attached to being rescued from the medical profession, that it made them very happy at the idea of having it. So be it. Let them do as they want to do, because it works the other way as well, that although it can't save you, it also can't harm you.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, unless it's in your mind, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You feel attacked, you feel damaged, then you're more likely to be so.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. In the end, it's free choice, but don't say that it's guided by the Holy Spirit if it's not, and don't misinterpret what the course is saying, because it's pretty clear and pretty specific, and there isn't much room for interpretation. I mean, he's telling you very clearly what the truth is about these insane symbols like pills and money and protective clothing and vaccinations, and he actually names these things so that you're left in no doubt that what these things actually are.
But I know some Course in Miracles teachers who are very attached to their pills and stuff. So however much study somebody does, they can't always get past it, can they?
So it's these things are, it's a safety, it's security. You realize, like, well, why are you taking it? If you're taking something, are you taking it out of fear? Be honest with yourself. Is there a fear behind it? And if there's fear, then don't take it. If you're eating good food to be healthy, and well, and maybe you take a vitamin supplement. Okay, are you fearful, or is it just, you trying to fuel the body appropriately? Give it proper fuel so it functions right. So it all comes down to belief. Really look at the beliefs. But ultimately, the point is, ultimately you don't need it. If you're truly connected with source, that power of the mind transcends all the magic powers. And you don't need anything else.
Well, once you don't believe in these things, when you don't believe in vaccinations and vitamins and stuff, you lose the placebo effect, don't you? You can't
what's the point?
make yourself believe in them anymore. So there's no benefit to them, are there?
Well, what's the point then of taking these things? Because they no longer have any placebo benefit for you. And it's all mind. Your mind is interpreting and making up, determining how your body responds. Now, I'm going to give you a good example of that. So Ram Dass, the American spiritual teacher who used a lot of chemicals, drugs, certainly in the first part of his journey. So he went off to India at some point, and he took his chemicals with him, took some LSD. I mean, I suppose that was in the days when you could just go through customs with LSD. One wonders how he got it through. But anyway, so he has this, box of pills, LSD pills, and he shows his guru, who's really on a very high level. And so the guru says, "Oh, show me these. What are these?" And he's explaining, well, if you take these, you go on a kind of trip and you have an expanded experience. And so the guru says, "Oh, well, can I have some?" She's like, "All right." So the guru takes the whole lot, like the whole 30 pills or something. I mean, enough to presumably fry most people's brains. You go, okay, well, that's probably going to be if not fatal, are you ever going to be sane again? And he's like, all right, I'm not sure about this, but you're the guru. So and he's watching him for half an hour, and the guy's absolutely unfazed, not a trace, not a sign of anything changing. And he did it as obviously as a demonstration to Ram Dass. He said, when you understand that everything in the pill is actually in you already, then you'll have the key to your liberation, something along those lines. So he was demonstrating to him that the magic is not in the pill, it's in the mind.
Yeah, and then Ram Dass probably went, "Oh, for heaven's sake, all that time and all that money." And
well, he was teaching him that, look, this isn't ultimately the way. You're not gonna find liberation purely through chemicals. They can be an opening. You can use them to open your mind to another reality, to show you that there's another reality other than just the physical material world, which it did do for Ram Dass, and it was helpful. But then, by his own admission, it became like, okay, well, now it's which drug am I going to take, and how much am I going to take, and in what combination am I going to take it to get the high I want? And now it becomes another attachment. That's not freeing you. It's actually attaching you more to this world, and now you think you have to use magic to get into an altered state, when actually it's all in your own mind. The drugs just activate chemicals that are already there. So I think he learned from that, and he started moving away from that, and he went into things like breath work and meditation more, because he realized, well, this isn't really helping me anymore. It was a start, but to continue doing this, it's just I'm not actually making spiritual progress. So to his credit, I think he learned, but the guru needed to teach him that by the demonstration, that actually the pills had no effect on him. So we go, wow, powerful chemicals. Well, they can't override the mind. The mind is the most powerful. And there's many examples of this kind of thing with gurus and yogis, where they're just really not affected in the same way by things that affect so-called normal human beings. They have resilience to substances, chemicals. They don't need much sleep. They're just operating on a different level, because this source energy is what's guiding them, and so they don't need any of the other stuff.
It reminds me of the experiments they did with alcohol and operations and things. So with the alcohol, they gave people alcohol saying it was alcohol, and they gave other people alcohol saying it wasn't alcohol.
Hmm.
And then they did the other one, whichever it was, they gave them, yeah, whatever. And so they found that when people were given something that they believed was alcohol, they acted as though they were drunk, even though
Hmm.
they weren't drinking any alcohol. And for
Hmm.
me, that was like, oh, yeah, cool.
Hmm.
And the one where they operated on people's knees, and some of them, they just made a little mark on the skin that made it look like they'd operated on the knee. Some of them, they'd operated on the knee, opened up the person's knee and not done anything and just sewn it up. And then they'd done another group where they'd actually done the operation, but the ones that didn't have the operation at all got just as well as the ones that had had the operation, or probably even better, because they didn't have any post-op stuff.
Hmm.
So both of those changed my life. It was like, oh, okay then. So getting drunk is just your mind telling yourself you've had alcohol, so you get drunk, and
Hmm.
the operation is a placebo effect. So
Hmm.
yeah.
It's all in the mind. So yeah, I mean, that guru is at a high level to be able to do that. I wouldn't recommend you do that if you didn't have the serious mind training. You've done years and years of deep meditation, and he knew how to control his body with his mind. But that's what it's possible. So all of these things that we've invented to try and make us safe, ultimately that's just denying our own power, the power of our mind to keep us safe, and deferring to some other power. So it's not actually helping us ultimately to realize, yes, I have all power. All power is in my own mind, in my own awareness. I need not look outside. In fact, there is nothing outside that's going to help me and save me. There's only this this one power. So then you give all honor and glory to God, as I say, rather than honoring these are false idols, false beliefs, and something that's not true, which if you believe it just perpetuates your belief in a false self, which then keeps you in the dream rather than freeing your mind from the dream.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Because for me, I can't play the game of tablets and everything, but I do for my dog, because I got to a point where I couldn't change my mind. I couldn't get my mind aligned that it was real, that there was anything wrong. So I got to the point of going to the vet and getting a whole load of tablets. I mean, a whole load of tablets for a whole load of money. And I'm giving them to her thinking, I know it isn't real, but it's the only way I can get past this block in my mind. And now we're just down to a couple of things to give her. And I'm still like, I've got this conflict within me. Like, I know it's not real, but I'm still doing it because I don't know what else to do, and I don't know how to change my mind. But just listening to you talking, I'm thinking, well, it's all a fear, isn't it? So I'm projecting a fear onto the dog, and then I'm going to use something to fix the fear. So really, I've just got to own the fear.
Yeah, recognize it for what it is, and then let go, and trust that the spirit can deal with everything, including the dog's health. And this is often how the ego gets us. It's not our health. We're like, oh, I'm fine with myself, but oh no, I'm being irresponsible if I don't do it for my dog or my child or something in my care. But hang on, so you're not trusting the spirit then to manage this. You're saying the ego then has power, and you're giving it power in that instance, which isn't helping you or them. So you need to just be really honest. I mean, if they needed medical attention, they need an operation or something, okay, maybe that you're going to go do that. But pills, as he's very clear here, are just trying to it's a way of managing your fear, and the entire drug industry works on that. Basically, a fear industry. Oh, take the pill and you'll feel better. Really? Is there any evidence for that, or is it just they've done? That I suppose they do clinical trials and stuff, but overall, these pills have all kinds of side effects. So is it actually really for your greater health and well-being? That's very arguable, even if it has, some supposed effect. Surely there's another way of doing it. So look for really what Yeshua is asking us to do is look beneath the form and look at the belief. What's the belief that's driving it? And if you're honest with yourself and you see that it's really just a false belief, then you can drop it and say, well, I just believe in this and I don't need to believe in this because it's just false. And actually that belief doesn't mean anything, and it's not really protecting me at all. And if you really get that, you'll drop it, and then it's, well, I can't believe in this anymore. So those areas where you have difficulty, like with your dog, it's like, look at those carefully, because that's where the ego is holding on. And it's using that situation to perpetuate itself still in your mind and stop you from the full release into, letting go completely into trusting the Holy Spirit with everything. This is the truth. It's the ultimate truth. And it can handle everything, including your dog's well-being quite well. So, just open up and ask for guidance, and then be willing to take it. So maybe when she comes to the end of her pill, say, okay, that's it. No more.
Yeah, exactly.
Just take the guidance. And I met he's actually a really interesting chap. He was into the whole free man stuff where just teaching you who you really are. Your identity in this world is not, you're not a citizen of the country. You're actually a free man in common law. And so he'd gone quite deep into all this. So he's starting to think very alternatively, but he's opening into that. He was a vet, and he just couldn't stand the way that the animals were treated by the conventional vet industry. Just prescribing the drugs the same way as they do with humans. Drugs, and some of these animals are on like 4 or 5 different pills, and they're so toxic that their health is being hugely compromised, but their owners keep doing it and the vets keep prescribing because that's the only way they know, and it's not actually helping the animals. So part of his awakening into something else was like, hang on, this whole system is really rotten and it's corrupt because it's just about making money. Money-making system at the expense of the animal's health and well-being. And the vets, like the doctors, are playing on the fear of the owners in order to get them to follow their advice. Oh, you don't want to lose your dog. Oh, you better make sure they take the pills. But the reality is you're going to lose your dog anyway at some point, because animals die a lot sooner than humans do. So that's just if you accept that, then there's no fear, is there? Okay, well, at some point you're not going to lose your dog. The dog's simply going to become incorporeal. Again, watch the language. You're not losing anything really. The dog has simply had its time, its allotted lifespan, and then it goes back into the incorporeal domain without a body. So you haven't really lost anything. The dog's still there. Once you accept that, then why the fear? And does it really matter if your dog dies tomorrow or dies in 2 years? Does it really matter? Did you see? I mean, it's only to the human self that matters. Oh, well, I would like 2 more years with my dog. But who are you to say? If it's a dog's time to go, then it's a dog's time to go. And your job is just to accept that.
Yeah.
Then people go, oh, but I didn't do everything I possibly could to protect the dog and sustain its life. So now I'm feeling guilty. But it's going to die anyway. So why the guilt? And actually, where it's going is, a place of perfect peace. So why any difficulty? Why any drama? And the dog is there ultimately to help you to awaken. That's the purpose of everything. So again, you bring it back to true purpose. You say this relationship between me and my dog is a holy relationship. It's designed to help us both awaken. So let's use it for that purpose. So let me not misuse it for fear, because that's not helping me or the dog. And if you do some work on it, you'll get the guidance, and then be brave enough to take the appropriate action. And then you say, okay, well, if I'm being guided to throw away the pills, then I'll throw away the pills because I'm trusting. Otherwise, I'm not really trusting, am I?
Yeah, that's what I
The
was
guidance,
saying.
you go, oh no, I'll just hedge my bets here. I'll hang on to the pills. Well, really, what you're saying is I don't trust the Holy Spirit completely. I'm still listening to the ego, which is telling me, to take the pills because that's going to keep the dog safe. Oh, and then at least if I've done everything I could and I've done the pills, then there'll be no guilt. You see, so you're also protecting yourself because then I don't have to feel guilty if the dog dies. So I'll do everything the vets say because then I've done everything they said, and the dog still died. Okay, well I'm off the hook of the guilt. You see. And so you've got to watch all of these
know me
games.
very well. Yes,
Right?
exactly. You
But
know me
I mean,
very
it's
well.
obvious, isn't it? This is how the mind works. This is how the ego mind works. So it's just like looking at all of its games and going, okay, am I willing to play this? So on one level, you're having these mystic experiences and deep peace, and then on another, the ego is still fighting its corner in other areas of your life. And so what you want to do is make it all encompassing. So it's like, oh, there's not that area is, yes, with your own life and your own health, and you're moving more and more into spirit and trusting, but then there's this area that you're keeping apart from the Holy Spirit, and that of course then becomes the domain of the ego, and the ego is still in your mind. And yes, you're saying to us, look, I want it all. Ultimately, he starts off small. He's saying, well, just give me a little willingness, but ultimately saying, look, you have to give total willingness to the Spirit. That becomes your only voice, the only voice you listen to, and your only guide. And I understand that's a process, and this is the process. This course is the training program that's designed to help you undergo that process of correcting your mind. So it is a process, but don't delay the process unnecessarily. If it comes up, go, okay, well, why delay? I can delay this for years, and then the ego's still got a hold in my mind, or I face it now and I just do it. And you might then find that miraculously your dog gets better. Doesn't need the pills because it was all it was all about the learning. Actually, your dog is helping you to learn a very profound, powerful lesson.
Yeah, I know that.
And so then you're giving them the situation that the true purpose is the Holy Spirit. It's not the ego's. The ego's purpose is to maintain the fear and the illusion of the body is important, and the fear of death and suffering and all of that. That's its purpose for the relationship. The Holy Spirit's interpretation is that relationship is there to free both of your minds back to the source. So use it for that purpose. And that that purpose will determine how you approach an issue, like, do I give pills or not?
Yeah. Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, only a pleasure. So let's have a look at today's quote, and very brief teaching today. Just thought I'd keep it very brief and just ask you to contemplate it for yourself. So I might be doing a bit more of that. Instead of spoon feeding the answers. It's like, okay, well, you contemplate what's coming to you out of the quote, and things will come, and then we can discuss it in these sessions. So yeah, Friedrich Nietzsche, nice, very nice quote. Read that.
One must be a sea to receive a polluted stream without becoming impure.
Yeah, so that kind of struck me. I mean, it's an allegory. He's pointing us to the expansive awareness within us. It's actually completely unaffected by any spiritual pollutants. He's a philosopher, so he's talking on a mind level, using the sea as an analogy. So remaining pure, no matter what toxic inputs it may receive from the environment, is what he's asking us to do. So the sea or the ocean is analogous to spirit, to source, the great ocean, and then we've all got these streams flowing down into the ocean, and there seem to be these pollutants, but when it gets to the sea is so vast that it just disappears. It's actually, I mean, in truth, you think of how extraordinary the sea is in receiving all the pollutants that humanity's pumped into it for thousands of years, and yet it still sustains life. So It's obviously got a mechanism on the physical level that keeps it, that it's self-cleaning. It's able to take that. So in the same way, spiritually, our true nature, our true source, is actually unaffected by any of these pollutants. Whatever toxic thoughts, emotions that anyone's projecting on you, that you experience in this world, that need not affect you, because you are the great ocean, which is just another perspective on what radical forgiveness or letting go means. You let it go because it really has no effect on the great ocean. It's not. Great ocean of truth is completely unaffected by any of these so-called pollutants.
Yeah, I like that quote. It was good.
So I'm like, when I look for them, something just stands out. Okay, that's a nice one, just to ideally make you think a little bit differently about something, and then it leads into the lesson. It's got a similar message. So let's have a look at the lesson, shall we? 263. On to, got about 100 days to go. And counting. So let's have a look. Actually, let's have a look at the body story. What is the body? So we've got a bit of time to do that. What's your timing like today?
I've got at least another hour.
Great, yeah. So we've got time to do this and then do the lesson as well. So what is the body? And I think last time you said, it wasn't quite landing for you. So let's see what happens today.
Printed it out. I printed out all the alternative format of it, and I've read it times. Yeah, some of it really lands, some of it less so, but we'll see how it goes today.
Okay, so if you want to read from the top of what is the body, read the alternative. The body is a fence.
The body is a fence the extension of perfect love imagines it has built to separate parts of itself from other parts. It is within this fence this separated mind thinks it lives to die as it decays and crumbles. For within this fence, it thinks that it is safe from love. Identifying with its safety, it regards itself as what its safety is. How else could it be certain it remains within the body, keeping love outside? Yeah, so that's a bit that sticks a bit. It thinks it's safe from love. That doesn't quite compute in my head, because it's like we all want love. So
do we really? The ego doesn't want love.
The ego doesn't.
Of course it doesn't want love.
But our truth of us does.
But we're talking here, he's talking about the separated mind.
Okay, all right.
The ego part of our minds thinks that it lives in a body to die as it decays and crumbles. And so within this fence, it thinks that it's safe from love, because very clearly, seemingly, there is no love. What loving presence could create a body that is doomed to decay and die? So you identify with the body and you're safe from love, and your separate identity remains intact. So identifying with its safety, it regards itself as what its safety is, regards itself as a body. Yet very obviously, the body is not going to keep you safe, because it is going to age, decay, and it is going to die. So you identify with the body, there's no safety there at all. But we identify with this because it keeps our separate identity safe. That's what he's talking about. So we cherish our identity, the separate self, over love, perfect love, which is not of this world and is beyond the body.
Okay.
So he's telling us very clearly why we use the body. Why did we invent the body? Well, to keep us safe from love. So now we've got something concrete, something specific with which our mind can identify that denies love. The body denies love's presence. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is not, there's no form in that. There's no need for bodies.
Okay. I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
Making any sense?
It's making a bit more sense, but it's like, who, well, the obvious, who in their right mind would choose not to have love?
Well, we all did, because we weren't in our right mind. Because we wanted a separate identity. That was what we desired over the truth of this one pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which there's no separation. There is no separate identity there. We can't have a separate identity there. So we prefer the separate identity that we've made up to that, and we will defend that to death. We all die defending that. Oh, well, my body's going to decay and die, and that's just the way of the world. Everyone who believes in the ego accepts that, well, that's what happens. Your body's going to get older, and eventually it's going to decay and crumble and eventually die, and that's just how it goes. That's the human life. And if you're lucky, you get 90 years, and if you're not so lucky, you get less time. And that's just the default belief of the ego. And he's asking us to question that and say, well, actually, what's really behind it is the separated mind, the separated self-concept. Everything is your self-concept. The body is a projection of your mind's self-concept. So that's what's really at stake, is your self-concept. And people will defend that to the death. They would rather die than awaken from the dream of being a separate self. And that happens all the time. Every day, people are dying rather than awakening to who they really are. Our choice, as spiritual students, is no, I choose to awaken before I die.
Yeah.
I choose to heal my mind completely so that I don't have to repeat this futile exercise again and come back again into a world of meaningless pursuits and bodies that really will ultimately decay and die. You're born to die. It's guaranteed. The moment you're born, you're going to age. And I kind of saw that when my son was born. It was almost like a time. It's like, I was there 40 years ago, and in 40 years time, he might be doing the same, or however long, he might be doing the same thing with his child. And I just saw that's the cycle of birth and death that human beings are caught up in, seemingly. And it all seemed pretty pointless to me, because it is ultimately pointless. That's what he's saying. You can't make the cycle of birth and death meaningful and also believe in pure formless awareness of perfect love. They contradict each other.
Can feel the resistance in me.
Yeah, that's good. Well, he's really, the body is a huge part of the illusion. Our identification with the body is the ego's obsession, and so that's what keeps us safe from love. That's what keeps us identified with the body and a separate self, and away from pure formless awareness. So, in this section, he's saying, okay, well, let's look at what the body is very clearly. And again, it doesn't pull his punches. He's saying it's a defense. Fence, and interesting, uses fence, and then you go, well, defense. It's the same root word. Defense. You've built a fence around you to defend yourself against the truth. Well, who would do that in their right mind? And you might go, yeah, well, obviously that's crazy, but then look at how you still do it. Whenever you defend the body's existence, its identity, its health and well-being using things like magic, then what you're saying is, I'm a body. You're identifying yourself as that, you see. You're telling your mind, no, this is what I am. He's asking us not to do that anymore, because it's not serving us in our awakening.
I'd love to not do it anymore.
It's just a simple choice. I don't have to. If this is the ultimate truth, I'm not a body, and I trust that, then I'm now under the guidance and the protection of another power, which is why he says it. God is my safety. God is my ultimate refuge and security. I think that was one of our recent lessons. So there lies all my safety. I don't need to look anywhere else. Certainly not to the body. Clearly, the body is not going to keep you safe. Has the body ever kept you safe?
Yep.
So why would you expect that to suddenly change? As you get older, it becomes very obvious. I mean, if you're young, you could still have the illusion, okay, well, yeah, my body's fit and healthy. But as you get older, you start realizing, well, this thing is very flawed. It's got all these problems, and it needs to be fed, and it's not operating as it used to, and this is it's a machine that's seriously suspect. Even if I treat it with respect and care, ultimately, it's not going to last. So why would I identify with it? That's just very silly. I'm setting myself up for pain and suffering if I do that very clearly. And yet we still do, because the mind, the ego mind, has it identified with it and says that, that's what you are, and don't forget it. And our entire world and our society is geared to foster that identification. And so you're going in the other direction now, and it feels like, oh, there's all this resistance and there's this pull towards being a body, isn't it? And you have to remove yourself from that kind of gravitational pull and go above that and look at all of it and go, no, this isn't true. I never was a body, and I don't want to be a body. Why would I? You see, at the root of this, you remember in the Instrument for Peace, the root is the desire. What do I desire to be? Do I desire to be a one self or a separate self? That's the question, always to be answered. And the answer to that question is going to determine your perception of things like the body and how the body interacts with the world and pills and all it comes down to what I want to be in the situation. Who do I choose to be? And you're always choosing either the self, capital self, your true self, the one self that is the Christ, that is your true nature, or you're choosing a false self that you've invented to replace it. Okay.
I thought I understood this. I thought I got it all, but this is like hitting another layer. Like,
well, that's why we go. That's why he's saying read it every day for 10 days, because it's like, okay, well, it's simple teaching. The words are simple, aren't they? But you dig into them and you're like, whoa, there's a whole load of layers that this is uncovering here.
Yeah.
That I didn't necessarily want to see. And so every time I read it, I've got another chance to get into a layer and let it go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to summarize paragraph 1?
The body is the fence that we imagine keeps out love that we accidentally made.
Well, not accidentally, it was a mistake, but it was all intentional. Once you've decided that you want separation, then the body is an inevitable consequence of that belief. That's what he's saying. It's kind of logic. The ego has its own twisted logic. You decide you want to be separate, and then the logic follows from there. And you go down that whole path, which is described in the diagram. Let's just bring that up, shall we?
I might have chosen it, but I accidentally chose it, and it was an uninformed choice.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd get into it so deep.
It was a silly idea, really, wasn't it? Yes. So I think I just need to bring that up. It was a very bad idea, really, to do this, because when we made the initial choice, we had no idea what we were doing. We'd never done it before. This was all new, and it was like, oh, that could be good. Have your own identity. But then we experience the consequences of that choice, and we start questioning and saying, well, actually, maybe it wasn't a good idea at all. If you look at it, the overall picture of what the ego's created, it's a disaster compared with pure formless awareness of perfect love. All of this going on is an absolute disaster. It's a train smash of epic proportions. So why would you want to continue believing in that? What Yeshe is trying to get us to see is it's one tiny mad idea which you chose to believe in. So there was a choice, and there was a desire to be a separate self. And that's what kicked it all off. And that's what is behind the miscreation of the body and your identity as a body and all the suffering that the body seems to experience and the sense perceptions of the body. It's all a product of a false idea in separation, which you can be done with. You don't have to believe in that anymore. So the body is the natural consequence. If you understand how the system works, then yes, the moment we decided to separate, that this was all would have, if you could see ahead, you would have gone, this is what's going to happen. We had no idea what we're getting into. So we've had to experience it all, go into the dream very deeply. Now think that we're actually living in a body, in this helpless innovator little life of limitation, lack, loneliness, and suffering before our bodies die. We have to believe all of that in order to really see the consequences of this choice. So when you suffer enough, you realize the consequences are not good, then maybe you're willing to change your mind. And so that's the only purpose for the suffering. Well, it's there to awaken you. Realize this really wasn't a good idea. I need to change my mind, and I need to go back. I need to go back home. And what's going to take me back home is my true mind's, my right mind's ability to reinterpret the entire dream, which is the Holy Spirit. It can reinterpret the body and all of the stuff that the body's involved in, this whole world, in a way that undoes the belief in separation ultimately and restores our mind to pure formless awareness of perfect love. Which is really simple, actually. So it's a very simple program. But we have these deep-seated beliefs that we've got to undo, like the belief we're a body. And this is what the process is. So he's doing the mind training to help us to look at it. And yeah, it will be uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable, that's always a good sign. Okay, because I'm hitting a belief that is to the contrary of what Yeshua's teaching me. And so there's now a resistance and there's a difficulty there. It's uncomfortable, but let me go into the discomfort. So this is a course where you have to get good at just, okay, I'll go into the discomfort. I'll really look at that. I'm not going to shy away from it and run away from it, because that's where the healing lies. In the area of greatest discomfort lies the greatest healing. Greatest pain, the greatest pain and a wound is the source of the greatest healing. That's the reinterpretation, isn't it? Okay, happy to move on to number 2.
Yes. The body will not remain, yet this it sees as double safety for the extent.
Do you understand why now? Last time you said you're not sure.
No, I wasn't sure last time, was I?
You talked about safety once, that there's this safety and body as a fence. Imagine is built to keep him safe. Within this fence, it thinks that it's safe from love. So that's the first level of safety. Body keeps us safe from love. And we identify with the body to keep us safe from love. And this is double safety now, because the body will not remain. Yet this it sees as another level of safety. And now he explains why.
The extension of perfect love's impermanence is proof its senses work, its fences work, and do the task its mind assigns to them. For its oneness still remained untouched. Who could attack and who could be attacked? Who could be victor? Who could be its prey? Who could be victim? Who the murderer? And if it did not die, what proof is there that pure formless awareness of perfect love's eternal extension can be destroyed? No, I still don't really get it.
Okay. Why it's double safety?
So safety is the fence that separates us from love. And then there's the second fence is like death.
Well, this proves that its fences work. Okay, so the fact that the body will not remain is proof to us
right.
that these defenses work and do the task its mind assigns to it. For if our oneness still remained untouched, how could any of this happen? Attack and and murder and death and disaster, none of this could be real. So the seeming fact that the body will decay and die is proof that oneness is no longer. Oneness is destroyed.
Okay.
And that's seemingly evident in just looking at what happens in this world to bodies. Bodies are attacked. Bodies attack, and they're attacked. They're victims. They're murderers. One body seems to triumph over another one seems to suffer. I mean, this is the story of the human condition, isn't it? Bodies interacting with each other and separating from each other. One seems to be in charge of another. So slavery and misusing people for egoic purposes. This has been a big part of the human story. But this is there to confirm that our fences work. That actually, yes, we are separate from love. Love is no longer, and actually there's now only the body and the thought system that's behind the body, the ego, and that's all there is. So if it did not die, what proof is there that pure formless awareness of perfect love's eternal extension can be destroyed? So do you see the use that the ego is making of the body? So, okay, well, the fact that it seemingly decays and it dies is a setup to show you that actually eternal love has died, that you've actually done the impossible and you've destroyed it. Remember, the delusion of the ego is that it's destroyed perfect love. So it's destroyed love, it's destroyed life, and now all you're left with is this illusory self, a separate self that's trying to have some kind of life and existence within that thought system of destruction. And so, based on the idea that you can only have a separate identity if you destroy love, death is then a natural part of the ego system, isn't it? Because it's based on death. It's based on, in order for me to exist, I had to destroy something. The only reason I exist as an individual identity is because I destroyed perfect oneness. And that's the source of the guilt that underpins the ego's identity. Because I only have an identity because I did this terrible thing. I destroyed oneness and love, which actually my true mind knows is all that's really valuable. But I don't want to see that. So now I've experienced the guilt for it, and I just project that guilt out onto everyone and everything else. And now I live in a very fearful, attacking world as a victim of a seemingly cruel world outside of myself that's attacking me and causing me to seemingly suffer and live this life of limitation, lack, loneliness, aging, suffering, and death, when in fact I did it all to myself. It was all my decision. The moment I decided to be separate, this was the consequence of that choice. You see that?
I can see some of it. I can't see all of it.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what my belief system is, but something's really in the way.
Well, the body identification. I remember when I was waking up, I had this thought once that it came. It was so clear in my mind. It was like, Jesus, Jono, this stuff's going to kill you. And then immediately I went, yeah, okay, well, who said that? The Holy Spirit interpreted and said, okay, well, who said that? And that's kind of the whole point. Kill you, or who's the you that thinks it's going to be killed by this? Separate self, right? The ego self. It's like, oh, there's no more separate self. There's no more Jono identity, you see? That was what I was scared of. That's the terror of the ego. No more separate self, no more identity. I cease to exist. So the ego interprets that as death. But Yeshua is saying to us, no, that's actually life, because what you're living in is a product of a death wish. So your separate self will condemn you to death over and over and over again. And you don't want to see that. How can you expect a death wish to give you life? It's not possible. This is not life. This is a delusion of life. It's a separation from life. And you'll never find happiness and satisfaction in this, because it's a death wish. It's the opposite of life. So it's asking us just to give it all up and realize that anything that came from this idea of separation is a death wish, and you're going to let it all go. You don't want to keep it at all. None of it, including the body. So you absolutely do not need a body. You don't want a body, and none of the defenses that, that exist around the body. The body's not permanent. The body can get sick. The body can suffer. The body can die. This is all part of the egoic thought system that's very deeply entrenched in our life, isn't it? In our thinking, in our world. Most people, it's the default system of the world. Most people believe they're a body. So this is challenging all of that. And if you experience some resistance, it's normal. Okay. Any questions on number 2? Does that make sense? You see why it's double safety? Because you need the proof in the body's impermanence. That is proof that eternal love must die. That there's nothing eternal. And that the ego has actually done what you think it's done. It has actually destroyed love, which is eternal. And there's nothing eternal left. Just this very short-lived body identity is doomed to suffer and die. And so the ego says, well, okay, accept that, but make the most of it. Experience as much pleasure as you can here. Avoid pain and seek pleasure. And that'll give you some kind of happiness while you're here. And that's been tried in many, many ways, in many different forms, and it has never worked for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the Buddha observed desire is the source of all suffering, because what you're actually desiring is to be a separate self. See, that's the desire behind all of the delusions. You look at the instrument for peace. What's the core desire? What I wanted and expected is for. And actually, I wanted to be a separate self. That's my true desire that underpinned all of the egoic thoughts and emotions and beliefs. And so the miracle happens when I choose, again, I say, I don't want to be a separate self. I want to be one self. And so in this instance, if I apply that to this instance, that's going to change my belief and my thought and my emotion and my perception about the specific person and situation I'm dealing with. And I will then change my perception and my feelings and my thoughts because I've changed my fundamental desire. I want to be one self, not a separate self. So it's actually really, really simple. I mean, the more you look at these diagrams, it's like a really simple understanding of the mind and how it works, which eludes most philosophers, psychologists. The simplicity of it eludes them because they've got caught up in the complexity of the ego's defenses and haven't penetrated through to the core, which is, well, what do I want to be? Who do I choose to be here? What is my desire? We desired to be a separate self. That's what created or miscreated all of this. Now we can desire to be one self, and that undoes all of the effects of the ego's miscreation. Okay?
Sort of. Yeah, when I do that instrument of peace, I usually, what my desire is, I put in there peace. Usually I want to feel whatever. No, actually I don't. No, I actually do put an ego quote. No, sorry. Yeah. But
yeah, it's meant to be highlighting the egoic.
Yeah,
and once you've highlighted that, then you move into, yes, I choose peace, which means, the consequence of oneness, if I choose to be one self rather than a separate self, the consequence of that is I choose peace. Peace goes with the one self, as surely as war and conflict go with the separate self. So you can't choose peace and not choose the one self. That's the relationship between them. Peace is the experience that comes when you choose the one self, which means you're not choosing the body. Very clearly, because if you were a body, then you would be a separate self. You choose one self, you must deny the body and choose the mind's ultimate identity beyond the body.
This is going to be interesting unraveling. I'm going to do some EAM after this. See what the belief is, or instrument of peace maybe on it. We might need to do a few. Quite a few.
Well, it's a huge, but I mean, this is the core of the dream here. We believe we're a body. That's fundamental to our seeming human existence and our life here. Without a body, I wouldn't be human, would I? But yes,
Yes.
you're saying to us, you're not really human. You never were a body. So this whole thing is a fake reality that you've invented to give the separate self some kind of existence in your mind and play it out in this dream, but it's just not true.
What I'm feeling at the moment is grief, I think. So it's something shifting to feel grief, isn't it? Because I'm letting go of my old concepts.
Yeah, and it can be quite devastating for the ego to realize this. Oh, well, what was the point of all of it? And it can feel quite, grieving and depressed, and a lot of people don't want to feel that. So they go, oh, okay, well, just don't even go there. Let's just revert back to the ego's thought system. But if you're willing to face that, I mean, these are just emotions that are arising out of the separate self at its death. Because it doesn't want you to see that it was actually always just a very bad idea. And it's betrayed you over and over, time and time again. And now it's been rumbled. It's, all of these emotions come up as a part of it, as its defense. Oh, now you're going to grieve. Well, that's an egoic emotion. That's going to make you seem like a separate self. But if you're willing to recognize that they're just temporary, it's all just part of the unwinding of this insane identity, and go through it. You got to have a tolerance for discomfort to do this course. You really do, because it's not comfortable at all. And it's over and over, every day. Okay, well, now I've got it. Well, have you really? It was there, you see. And so now we do another lesson like this, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, we just hit another level of resistance. And then you have the discomfort all over again, and then you've got to go through it.
And it's interesting, isn't it, when you hit a point like this, I can feel like I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm trying to make sense of why I feel grief, but you don't want to attach a story to it, because it just creates more attachment, doesn't it?
Well, it's just so, I from my perspective, because I've had these emotions as well. It's just like, well, what was the point? It's just like also pointless and futile, and you can just feel like my life is just a bad dream, really, and everything I believed here is really nothing, and all of this stuff I valued and experienced, and like it's really nothing. And for the ego, this is devastating, and it can have a counter reaction to this, of feeling depressed, feeling angry, grieving. All of these emotions can come up. But if they're not pure formless awareness of perfect love, then they're just another part of its thought system, unwinding, just coming into conscious awareness to be looked at and released.
Yeah, it feels like a good thing.
Oh.
I don't know how you can feel grief and depressed and say, oh, it feels like a good thing.
Well, it's processing through it. You actually, it's the death of the separate self, and the ego is not happy with that. And so there's this sense of having lost something. Of course, it wants to get you stuck in that, because then if you get stuck in the sense of loss, that's of course the ego. Only it believes in sacrifice and loss. So just recognize it's temporary. So you're moving through it into a state where there is no loss. And this is what Yes was saying. There's no loss. Nothing. You can't ever lose anyone or anything in pure formless awareness. Everything is given to you eternally, forever, and you can't lose it. I mean, that's surely, cause for great joy. Wow, I can't lose. No more pain, no more suffering, no more sickness, no more death. I can't lose. Just perfect peace, love, joy forever, all eternity. Like, what am I waiting for? Compared with this place, where nothing is permanent, we're seeking for these scraps of satisfaction in the illusion, and when they come, they don't satisfy us. Okay. So anything else on number 2?
No, just a whole lot of grief, thanks. Let's go on
Yeah.
to number 3. See if it shifts.
Moving swiftly through it.
The body is a dream. Like other dreams, it sometimes seems to picture happiness, but can quite suddenly revert to fear, where every dream is born. But only love extends in truth, and truth can never fear. Made to be fearful, the body must serve the purpose given it. But we can change the purpose that the body will obey by changing what we think that it is for. Okay, yeah. Body's a learning tool. Body's for awakening.
So it can sometimes seem to picture happiness. The illusion is, the Facebook life. People are like, oh, look, I'm so happy, smiley, and they're taking photos of them, out on the town or in a nice place, and it all looks like, if you judge life on that standard, you're seeing the best moments. It looks great, and people go, well, why are they having such a great time? Why life's so unpleasant? But actually, we're all having to eventually going to face the fact that the body is a dream, and that it's going to decay and die, and that all of your dreams will amount to nothing. And quite suddenly revert to fear, where every dream is born. So there's very few people, unless they're perfectly enlightened, who will go through a life where everything's just smooth and everything's working out, because this fear, the ego, comes in. You can't sustain that for very long. It needs food for its identity, and that is pain and suffering. So it needs to create that over and over.
I've been listening to this book about Bill Thetford, and the more I listen to it, the more I think, blimey, he had it all quite tricky, really. It didn't sound like plain sailing at all. And as I was listening to that this morning, I was thinking, yeah, Sally, that's how it is. It's just like you're not trying to attain this nirvana, really. It's just like you just got to go through this. It's because, the egoic ups and downs are just to be worked through. And just how it is in the dream.
It's a process, and it's a journey, hence the hero's journey. And it's going to take your entire life. The rest of your life is that journey. And there's going to be many twists and turns and ups and downs, but the one simple truth through it all, if you can remember that, it's going to make that journey a whole lot easier. There's the only point, is to remember, yes, I still am this, I'm still am love. Nothing's really changed, irrespective of what what's happening in the dream. Only love extends in truth, and truth can never fear.
Yeah, it's a good thing to remember, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's the only thing to remember. So Yeshua's only asking us to remember one thing. Look, love is still there. Doesn't matter what you think is happening. Love is still there. You still are that love, and nothing's really changed. So the body must serve the purpose given it. If it was made to be fearful, and we identify with the ego, then the body must serve the purpose of fear. And the body's going to be used to confirm fear in our minds. But we can change the purpose. The body will obey by changing what we think that it is for. So instead of being a tool dedicated to fear and maintaining the ego's thought system, it becomes a vehicle for our awakening. So we can learn our lessons by having a body and having seemingly human experience that the body gives us. We can learn our lessons here. And we can change what we think that it is for.
Yeah.
So our ultimate purpose changes, which then changes our perception of everything. Once that purpose has changed, everything changes. Okay, so any thoughts on number 3?
Well, only that I've known that the body's been for awakening for years, but still I seem to be experiencing some fear every now and again. Yeah.
Oh, then it's just about how you look at that fear. You know, can you let go of that fear by recognizing that you're not a body?
Yeah.
And then it's useful. Okay, fear came up, but I let it go, and the purpose of the situation was to bring up some of that deep-seated fear and help me to release it, so I can be free of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on to number 4.
The body is the means by which pure formless awareness of perfect love's extension returns to sanity. Yeah. So it was made to fence it into victimhood without escape, yet has the goal of pure formless awareness been exchanged for the pursuit of its victim identity and the suffering this brings. The extension of perfect love extends its hand to reach other minds that are its companions and to help them walk along the road to it with it. Now is the body innocent. Now it serves to heal the mind that it was made to kill. Yeah, I remember reading that last time when we did it. I was like, made to kill, blimey. Yeah.
The body was made to kill the mind. Wow. Seemingly confirming that we're mortal and we can die. The mind can die with the body, which of course is not true. It's very evident. There's evidence that the mind continues beyond death. People have near-death experiences, the afterlife, reincarnation. It's all saying your mind can't really die, but you think you can die, and then you seek to prove that by enacting this ridiculous ritual of birth and death, going through this human life to prove that you're right. That's what this is all about. The human experience is to prove that you're right and God is wrong.
You want to be right or happy?
And be right or free. You can be right all you like, but then you suffer. So actually, I got it all wrong. I was totally delusional. I didn't know what I was doing. I have really no idea why I'm here. If you're honest about it, then that's the beginning of awakening, isn't it? I just actually have no idea anymore, and all of my existing models of life and the world and reality and who I am don't serve me anymore. That's when you're ready for a path like this, to let it all go and say, okay, well, show me. I don't know anymore. I have no idea. Actually, I could be 60, 70, even 80 years old, and I have no idea who I am. In fact, I've never had any idea who I am through my entire life. I've seen it in older people. So just no idea who they are, and yet they've lived for 80 years. How's that possible? Because it's 80 years of the same repetitive thought system sponsored by the ego, and so they just get more and more entrenched into that. And there was no willingness to awaken. So they just kept doing, thinking the same thoughts, believing the same things, and just get more and more enslaved in the ego's thought system, and then very difficult at advanced stage to break out of it. Because then it's really like, oh wow, my whole life's been an illusion. It's a story written by Leo Tolstoy about a judge who sort of had an awakening on his deathbed, and he wasn't a very happy guy, and basically he'd worked as a judge, but he didn't like it, to pay the bills and give his wife the sort of life she wanted. And so on his deathbed, his final words were, well, what if my whole life has been wrong? What if my whole life has been wrong? Wow. I mean, that's quite a thought. So, most people don't want to face that. But actually, if they did face it on their deathbed and they got it, that would be a major awakening. So this course is saying, well, look at it wherever you are. It's been however many years. Recognize that if you've been living through the ego, your entire life's been wrong. And that's why you haven't been happy. It's why you can't find peace and happiness and any kind of lasting satisfaction in this world, because it's based on the wrong thought system. In fact, you're not who you think you are. Well, how can you expect to have happiness when you're not who you think you are? When you're believing in a false self.
I'm reading this book at the moment called How to Stop Time, and the story is that this guy never dies, he lives forever, and so he's been alive since 1500s, and he has to keep reinventing himself, getting a new identity, giving himself a new name, reinventing himself over and over again. And even now he says, I don't know who I am, just lost in life. And the feeling from the book is like, yeah, it's just eternal, isn't it? Until you go home.
So living eternally in an illusion is a nightmare.
Nightmare, yeah.
You
And
can't
like
get
I said,
out.
he never gets old. It should be good, but actually it's not. It's hell.
Because I just have to keep believing in the dream. There's no exit point.
Yeah.
And in order to live in this world, you need an identity. So now, presumably you've got to pretend to die. They had the same. It wasn't Highlander, was it, by any chance?
No.
No, it's a different. So there's a movie called Highlander where they had that same idea. There's immortals, and so the guy would pretend to die every now and then he creates another identity, and just kind of keep reinventing himself through the ages. But how exhausting! What a mission to have to do that, and then none of the people. So he had a wife. Well, of course, his wife gets old and he doesn't, so she dies, and then he's left.
Oh, same idea then. Yeah.
He's left alone with her. And there's a very poignant scene where she's dying and he's alive, and then they had that Queen song by Queen, who wants to live forever. Which I don't know the full the full lyrics, but I think it was actually written for Highlander. For that movie, Who Wants to Live Forever, because it's that. Well, do you really want to live forever? Actually, or you just find it's like, imagine if there was no end. You go, okay, I'm gonna be human forever. Unless I commit suicide, I'll just keep living. There's no exit point. It's like, oh God, would I really want that? Or actually, if you perceive correctly, the body's death is the final letting go of the body and the awakening into the spirit and the freedom from the body. So then death is graduation day. Death is not something to be feared. It's something to be welcomed if you've done the work. If your mind is corrected and healed, then it's graduation day. Great. And your body's no longer necessary. You did your work, you learned your lessons, and you go back into pure formless awareness of perfect love, and you remain there for all eternity. And that's woohoo. Great. That's what I want. That's my goal. So, bring it on. So why would you fear that? Just make sure you've done the work. You've corrected your mind. Because if you haven't, then another life will come. Your mind will be drawn back into this world, into another body, and then seemingly everything gets erased when that happens, and then you have to learn it all again. You become an infant again, you have another life, and you're like, okay, here I am again. And it's like trying to figure it all out again, and then you're a child, and then a teenager, and you have to go through all of that again, and you have to try and figure it out, and then go on a spiritual journey again, try and figure out what's actually going on in the world. And you might come across the Course in Miracles. You go, this book is strangely familiar, actually. Or you can just do it in one life and go, okay, well, let's just get the job done. He's given us the tool. While you're in that conscious awareness, you don't need to blank your mind again. Just use this opportunity you have to fully heal your mind, correct it.
It was nice, quick and easy, hey?
Hmm. Okay, so any thoughts on number 4?
No.
I'll give a
Or,
little summary of that. What's he saying?
well, this is how we return to sanity by returning to pure formless awareness, and the mind is healed.
Well, we can change our the key thing is we can change our mind about the purpose of the body.
Oh yeah, change the mind. Yeah.
That's really the key. So now the body can be used to help us awaken. It can be used to extend our hand to all our companions, to help them walk along the road. It can be helpful in this process of that one-ment. And now, under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, the body is innocent. It just serves to heal the mind that it was made to kill.
Yeah.
So the body has, even if it's ultimately going to die and age and die, these seem to be master programs that happen. You don't interpret it in a fearful way. It's not a problem. In fact, it's bringing you closer to, every day you're getting closer to graduation day. So that's a good thing. You wouldn't want to delay that unnecessarily. So, but you surrender as to when it happens. So final steps taken by God means that you just allow the process to take its course. You're willing to learn your lessons on this level, in perception, in time and space, and then God takes the final step when you're ready. Your mind is ready, it merges into that oneness, you're healed, and there's no more learning that's required. And that that will happen when you're ready. You've done enough work to have let go of that belief in separation, and just be ready to surrender, complete surrender. Just, I am that I am. I am that presence, and there is no other thought in my mind. Okay.
Yep.
Number 5.
You will identify with what you think will make you safe. Whatever it may be, you will believe that it is one with you. Your safety lies in truth. Truth, not in lies. Love is your safety. Fear does not exist. Identify with love and you are safe. Identify with love and you are home. Identify with love and find yourself. For years and years, I didn't know how to feel safe. I could never, all the meditations used to have, they say, go to your safe place. And I say, I don't feel safe. There isn't a safe place that I can go to. So it's nice, having done this course, to feel that safety in love, to know it's there. And
because you've had the experience.
Yeah.
There's a place in your mind where you're completely peaceful, completely safe. There's nothing else going on. You've experienced it, so it's there.
Yeah.
So you can always experience. You can go back there anytime you want.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed ever.
Yeah. It's nice to know it's there.
Yeah. So that's the source of your comfort. So at any point, you can change your mind. If you're feeling distressed, okay, well, I can change my mind. Then I can restore my mind to that, to this place of perfect peace. Okay, any thoughts on number 5?
No, that's cool.
So a lot of five fairly short paragraphs, but there's a lot of oomph in them.
But 2 had got the oomph. We'll hang out with that for a little bit later.
Yeah, do that and just work through whatever's arising.
Yeah, it felt like a brick wall. It felt really strong resistance.
Okay, so let's do the lesson to loosen the resistance a bit more.
My holy vision sees all things as pure. My whole awareness perceives everyone and everything as pure. Yeah. Feels light years away from number 2 paragraph, but yeah.
Including the body, everyone and everything is pure. So I see the body as pure, as an, because it's an instrument now of the spirit. So my perception is coming from source, is whole and complete, and I see everything as simply serving that one whole complete picture. I must perceive that everyone and everything is pure. There is no sin, in other words. This is quite an ask. What he's saying here, but people are, that's impossible. Well, is it impossible? Or can you just make a decision? So there's a decision in there. This is how I choose to see everything. It doesn't matter what evidence they're showing me, what they seemingly have done or not done. I perceive them as they really are, in truth, before the illusion of time and space, before they thought they were human, before I thought I was human. I perceive them as the same awareness that I am.
I don't feel like a very judgmental person, but there are times when people say something and it just feels wrong. Whatever they're deciding to do, it really feels wrong. Yeah, I must practice seeing them as pure.
Well, so what you're doing then is overlooking that whole form and just saying, well, I may have that, but it's a misperception. My mind is attached again to an illusion. And in a dream, everything is wrong because it's all upside down. It's all based on a false idea. But if I can set that aside, let it go, and simply see them as they are in their true awareness, they are perfect and whole and complete as I am. And I feel that, then I restore my mind to its true nature. Which is why forgiveness, is always forgiving yourself. Not really forgiving anyone else. There's no one else. You're letting go of your own belief in separation when you change your perception of the person or the situation. So I forgive you means, no, I let go of my misperceptions of you based on my own false beliefs. That's what forgiveness really means. So understanding that can be very, very helpful because it's just an understanding, okay, this is the real problem that I have. It's my own belief, my own perception. And I can change that. I have control over that. Whatever someone has said or done, I don't have control over that, but I can always change my beliefs and my perceptions about the person or the situation. That single truth, yes, I can always change my perception no matter what. That's really the essence of a genuine spiritual awakening. You understand that, then you have the key to awakening. One simple insight. You understand that?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
So yeah, this is what he's teaching us here. A whole awareness, to go to whole awareness through perception. So working on the perceptual level. I mean, if you look at this diagram, saying, well, to get to the core level, you got to work through the layers, work from the perception. If it's false perception, recognize its falsity by going deeper and looking at the emotions that sponsor it, that underlie it, the thoughts, the beliefs, and then finally the desire or prayer. So that going through those layers will help you get very clear about what that is. and then change your mind at the fundamental level. I don't want to be a separate self anymore. I want to be one self. So my belief about the situation changes. Instead of, say, thinking I'm a victim and I'm being unfairly treated, I go, no, I created this. I set myself up to have this experience. And so you reinterpret the ego's thought system, which then changes the belief, the thought, the emotion, and the perception of the situation. So instead of feeling unfairly treated, you can feel grateful for the opportunity that's given you to look at your own belief and let it go.
I tend to work with the ones that obviously trigger me, but I often find that if I do the little tiny things in life, the things that just cause a very minor irritation, that I get even more out of it.
Well, there's no order of difficulty in miracles because there's no hierarchy of illusions.
Yeah.
So, you might say that, well, that's just a little thing, but underpinning it is the entire illusion of the ego's thought system, which is not a little thing. It's ultimately nothing, but if you believe in it, it's a great dark block to your true awareness, to who you really are. So a little thing, a minor irritation, is a pointer to that great dark block. So if you use it as such to help you to undo another part of that block, and you're using it properly. Okay, so back to the lesson. Do you want to read paragraph 1, which is a prayer to Source?
My source, your mind extends all that is. Your spirit entered into it. Your love gave life to it. And do I really want to perceive that you extend as if it could be made sinful? I do not choose to perceive such dark and fearful images. A madman's dream is hardly fit to be my choice, instead of all the loveliness with which you blessed your extension, all its purity, its joy, and its eternal quiet home in you. So it's like a prayer, but to put the kind of negative into the prayer feels funny.
Hardly fit to be my choice. Well, I mean, this is the course's methodology. It's saying you must look at the negative and recognize that it's false. So over and over, he's asking us to do that.
Yeah.
And then let it go through the medium of the prayer or the forgiveness. And always contrasts it with something else. So he never leaves you in the darkness. He says, well, this is a madman's dream, and it's dark and desperate, but it's not true. These dark and fearful images are not true. Actually, only love is true. It's purity, it's joy, it's eternal quiet home in you. So through the prayer, the objective is always to restore you to an awareness of this, of the truth, through whatever the lesson is. He's always trying to help us to experience this and undo the ego in the process. Okay.
Yep.
So any thoughts on number 1?
No.
What I quite like about this is you're actually talking to yourself. So you're talking to your own mind and give it instructions. And he's using questions and answers. Do I really want to perceive what my source extends as if it could be made sinful? Do I really want to perceive it that way? Or actually, could I let go of that perception?
I do not choose to perceive such dark and fearful images. Yeah, it is like talking to yourself. Yeah.
So, okay, I recognize that this is what I'm doing is craziness. So I'm going to let this go because this doesn't serve me. So you're chipping away If you use the analogy of the sculptor, Michelangelo was asked, well, how did you sculpt the David? And he said, all I did was I took away what was not David, which is quite a profound answer. So I'm chipping away, I'm taking away what is not me. That's the course's approach. You don't have to create your ideal self. A lot of personal growth teaching, oh no, you're going to recreate yourself into some, bigger self, better self, which is just enhancing the false self-image. It's actually about just taking away what's not you. And then what's revealed is the true self, which is one, knows itself as one. It knows unconditional love. It knows that actually everything's the same as it. And there's nothing else. And so it's very, very simple. But to uncover it, you must choose not to indulge in all the coverings. You just got to cut all those away. I choose not to perceive such dark and fearful images. This dream world is not fit to be my choice. Madman's dream. And he couldn't be more explicit. Madman's dreams are hardly fit to be my choice. So I'm like, whoa, hallelujah. Actually, we can get out of here. Giving us the clear way here. Okay.
Number 2.
Number 2.
And while we still remain outside the state of pure formless awareness, let us look on all we see with whole awareness and the perception of true self. Let all appearances be pure to us, so that we may overlook them in innocence and walk together to our source's house as companions in the wholly aware extensions of perfect love. Yeah, sometimes I notice that I don't know what this says about my character, but it's like sometimes I just don't want to walk someone home. I don't want to walk with them. I was like, I kind of know that we've all got to go home together, but I just feel this like, no, you do it. You do your thing. I'll do mine. And separation is there, I don't want to help sometimes.
Oh, so when you recognize, think of it this way, they're not really separate from you. It's one.
I know that, but I still feel like that. It's amazing.
But that's just the ego still trying to sabotage the at-one-ment process. It's one mind that's fragmented itself into seemingly separate parts. But that fragmentation and separation is an illusion. And so this is the process of the one mind awakening to its true reality as the one mind. So by definition, you can't be alone in that process. It's everyone is doing that. Your little fragment of mind called Sally is awakening, but everyone else needs to awaken. For the mind to awaken to its true nature means every fragment of the mind must let go of its separate identity and identify itself as the one. Your responsibility is to do that for yourself. It's the sole responsibility of the miracle worker, says Yeshua, is to accept that one for himself or herself. So you accept it for yourself, but then you perceive others according to that acceptance. That's the key. So accepting it for yourself doesn't mean you then see them as separate, because then you're not accepting it for yourself. You've denied it for yourself. You see, how you perceive them is an indication of your own acceptance of the truth, or not.
Yeah.
So you can't possibly be alone in the awakening, because it's the whole mind that's waking up. So that might seem to be incomprehensibly vast and difficult and impossible. That's what the ego will tell you. But the Holy Spirit is behind that whole process of the at-one-ment, and it knows exactly what your path is. It knows exactly what you should be doing here in order to awaken yourself and others, and it will guide you on that path.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other thoughts on that?
No,
Paragraph 2.
no, that's good.
So, yeah, shall we got time for a meditation?
Yeah, got 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so just making yourself comfortable, sitting your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, it's the muscle used to contract the flow of energy, squeeze the last drops out. So draw this lovely, peaceful energy into stomach, into your heart center. One end in your heart to connect with your heart space. Draw the energy up to the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. And smile. Check in, scan your mind, notice any thoughts and any emotions, any physical sensations going on that are not really serving you, that are dark, causing you to separate from others and from your source. And now just be willing to look at them again, using today's lesson. Say, my holy vision sees all things as pure, while my whole awareness perceives everyone, everything as pure. And that realization, that knowledge, exhale, and the truth of that, imagine you blowing out those dark thoughts and emotions. The breeze of your breath, like black smoke leaving you. It's going, gone to the nothingness that it really is. And just rest here for a few moments in the peace and the stillness that come from letting go. Say this little prayer to yourself: my source. Your mind extends all that is. Your spirit entered into it. Your love gave life to it. And do I really want to perceive what you extend as if it could be made sinful? I really want to perceive my life in this way. So no, I do not choose to perceive such dark and fearful images. A madman's dream is hardly fit to be my choice instead of all the loveliness with which you blessed your extension, or its purity, its joy. And its eternal quiet home in you. And so sink into that home. Sink inwards to this deep peace, peace of heaven, peace of pure formless awareness. Nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. The next few minutes, just breathe in and out through your nose. Relax and be still. Surrender into the stillness. plenty of peace that comes when you correct your perception. So just breathe in and out through your nose, observe the nostrils, sensation in the nostrils of the breath flowing in and flowing out. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, observe the breath flowing into and out of the nostrils, relax. Be still and surrender into this eternal quiet, peaceful home. In your source, the very source of your awareness, the source of your mind. Any thoughts arise that seem to cause any disturbance, any impurities, fear, anger, hatred, attack thoughts, whatever else, just observe them, breathe into them. Remind yourself that my holy vision sees all things as pure, or my whole awareness perceives everyone and everything as pure, as whole. So these appearances do not exist. Exhale, blow them all away. Isn't they like dark clouds just being blown away by the breeze of your breath into the nothingness they really are? Lower stomach into the spine. And just rest here in this quiet, peaceful state beyond all illusions. Truth of who you are, which your perception is corrected. Nature says, while we still remain outside the gates of heaven or the state of pure formless awareness, let us look on all we see with whole awareness and the perception of our true self. Let all appearances be pure to us, that we may overlook them in innocence and walk together. Our source is love. Source is reality. companions and the holy aware extensions of perfect love. So just surrender into that love. Another minute or two of deep silence. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just be the holy extension of perfect love. Surrender to that. Experience fully for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. And so just gently coming back, this deep state of awareness, to an awareness of the body and the breath, senses and the world. And on the count of three, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing the stomach rise and the chest rise and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Noticing the smell of that air as you breathe in. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth as you inhaling the energy rise up the spine into heart center and up through your spine into the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. And just check in and scan your mind. So noticing any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. Or you just want to let it all go. Remind yourself that holy vision sees only purity. Holy awareness perceives everyone and everything as pure. So There is only pure formless awareness, perfect love. That's the only reality you choose to experience right now. So exhale. And blow it all away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Notice the air flowing out, chest and stomach sucked back in. Just the weight of your body on the count of 2, pressing down into the chair and your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands touching, and there's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Breathe in again. Notice the air flowing into the nostrils, the smell of that air. Notice maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth as you do that. Notice what you're hearing. All within this pure formless awareness, just this deep presence, this deep awareness that you've hopefully connected with very deeply over the last 16 minutes is still there, even as you perceive through the body's senses. So whatever you hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, smelling, and seeing is all perceived from this deeper awareness, which is really unmoved. It's unshaken by appearances, which is why your whole awareness, this awareness, can perceive everyone and everything as pure. And so it is said, and so it is done. So on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around in a casual, relaxed way, observing various objects in the room around you for a minute. Notice that the underlying awareness, the peace that it brings is still there. The same awareness you had when your eyes were closed is there. Your eyes open, it underlies whatever you're perceiving with the body's eyes or any of the other senses. So just notice any object for a few seconds. Notice that awareness, that it's very peaceful, calm. No need to name or judge or label or interpret that object in any way. Then move on to another object, whatever it is, randomly selected. Make no attempt to select to avoid anything. Notice that there's that same peace that underlies it. And look again, and there's peace again and something else that you see. And so you're starting to train your mind that actually peace is all there is. That level of peace is all there truly is, and it's nothing else. So to stay rooted in this peace, just practice today's lesson frequently. Yeshua recommends every hour. Remind yourself that my holy vision sees all things as pure. If you prefer, my whole awareness perceives everyone and everything as pure. You can do that using the 3-minute breath break I've sent you. Listen to that, or giving you instructions to do it in under a minute in your text message and email. And if you can only manage a few seconds, just taking a deep breath and reminding myself, my whole awareness perceives everyone and everything as pure, will do. So practicing that should keep you in the peace that this whole awareness brings, which is what I wish for you. And should be practicing in a very peaceful afternoon and evening. And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks, Sally.